Today, I am going to talk to you about the joy of dev life, a Bob Ross guide. And so when I was trying to figure out what I was going to talk about, I was thinking about the virtual coffee community. And I wanted to do something that um, a lot of people could understand and could relate to, and people outside of virtual coffee as well. And so I kept thinking about the questions that I most frequently get from other from people, whether it's virtual coffee or outside. And this is what I found. I most commonly hear people talking about being afraid, feeling not ready, and feeling sad or frustrated with where they are in whether it's their career or their coding journey. And so I thought about these three things: being afraid, self-doubt, and sadness or frustration. And I thought, okay, what is the opposite of those things? And obviously, Bob Ross came to mind. And so this is where I started. So I'm going to approach this in four different parts and using obviously the Bob Ross approach here. Believing you can, happy accidents, talents, and everybody needs a friend. So let's talk about community. So the first thing is imposter syndrome really overtakes what our abilities are to continue to do things, to move forward, to grow. And so imposter syndrome happens in a number of different ways, but basically what it is asking yourself, do you belong here? Do you deserve this treatment or opportunity, promotion, salary, acknowledgement, any of these things? And for many of us, it's not whether we can make it through it or not. It's this feeling of, do I deserve this here? And so there's a fear behind that, right? A fear that we are not good enough, that we should be better. But here's the thing. One, this is something I've talked to my therapist about a lot. It is not unique to tech. It is not unique to developers. It's a sense of self-doubt that's not based in your abilities. If you're an early career dev, of course, it will take you longer to do something than a senior developer. It's part of the journey and it's part of the process. And so there's this pressure that we want to achieve something, that we think that what makes us successful is achieving these certain goals. And the way that it's been framed often has to do with this idea of, I have to move on to do this next thing. I have to attain this one thing, and that's an achievement. But I think that this is a misdirected understanding of what achievement is. And so, for example, if you're a senior developer and you apply for a job and you don't get it, that's not missing an achievement, right? There are many reasons that go into not getting that job, and it might not have anything to do with your abilities. So the sense of achievement should be directed towards, am I growing? Am I getting more confident in what I'm doing? And there's also this thing that comes with this fear. And it could either be in the form of procrastination, or it can also be in over preparing. So you keep trying to figure things out until you get it perfect, but you can't ever get it perfect. And so the idea is that you should be working towards moving forward and making progress and not towards perfection. When you're learning, it's really easy to get frustrated by comparing yourself to others. And I think also if you're in your career and you see other people doing things, but you shouldn't be comparing yourself to other people. You should be looking at yourself and saying, am I moving forward? Where was I last week or last year? And so if you are able to do that and see where you've grown, that's what is most important. Okay, so Bob Ross is always ahead of his time, right? So this idea of believing that you can is actually the anti-imposter syndrome, right? And so working against that. So how do you embrace that quality? Well, here's the thing. Number one, you're not alone. Take one step towards self-confidence and recognize what your strengths are. And your strengths might not look like the strengths of other people. You Some strengths might be learning and persevering, being okay with asking questions, taking directions. It might be balancing schedules. It it might be looking at a problem and taking a different approach. They might be understanding the needs of other human beings and responding to them in a way that creates a healthy environment. Strengths all definitely come from communication. So allow yourself to communicate and to ask questions. Talk about your paint and your palette and what you're doing and your happy little mistakes. Acknowledge yourself and be proud of what you know. You don't need to know every framework in the same way that Bob Ross doesn't know every painting style. He mastered one and he spoke his process in a way that made his audience feel accepted, comfortable, and understood. Bob Ross is Dev Life Goals. And so one of the things that he talks about a lot is happy little accidents. Okay, so pretending you don't make mistakes is a really great way to cause distrust. Speaking your mistakes or confusions or questions into the world is an absolute strength. That's when you grow. So I love it. I love this idea of ever make mistakes in life? Let's make them birds. Yeah, they're birds now. So next time I make a mistake and take down a website, I am definitely going to say it's a bird now. Now we can grow. But this idea is we are growing and we are learning from our mistakes. It's a growth mindset. The individual believes in hard work and openness to input from others, and learning is something that we do to grow as opposed to being born with those specific talents. So understanding what your mistakes are, learning from them and growing from them is the way that we can make birds. Another thing that's really important is understanding what your experience is. So we're all at different levels here, but we all have some experience that we bring with us. It doesn't have to be experience coding. It can be experience that you bring from your life and what you've learned in other jobs or positions or from just being a human being. And that experience still helps to strengthen where you are today. And so thinking of that, part of that is knowing when you make a mistake and that you could speak that into the world and you can turn it into something else. Part of it isn't staring at a blank canvas for weeks and weeks, wondering how you should start. It's getting started. Part of that is knowing when to ask for help. And so the last part of this idea is community, because every little tree needs a friend, right? We learn better when we have support and we are more likely to grow. Community is a living and growing thing. And so there has to be consistent evaluation of yourself, your behaviors, your procedures, and there has to be a focus on being a part of a healthy community. You don't just wake up and have a healthy workspace, right? A lot of work goes into that. So whether you are managing people or you're a part of a community or you own a company, what you need to know is that having a supportive system, having a healthy community allows people to grow. And this is something that requires an ongoing process and evaluation. It's not something that happens once. Here's the thing, Bob Ross wasn't always Bob Ross. He used to be Bust 'em Up Bobby when he was in the Army because he was a terrifying drill sergeant. And so there was a moment where he realized that he was not being his best self. And according to legend, I guess, he left the army and he vowed never to raise his voice again. And somewhere along the way, he took up painting as a form of therapy. And it worked, and he wanted to share it. Coding started as therapy for me too, but it doesn't have to be that for you. It can be little moments. It could be discovering something new. It could be tapping into your imagination and creating something that you dreamed of. But just remember, anytime you learn, you gain. So that wraps up my Bob Ross approach um, to the dev life. And so I am going to stop sharing my screen.